and he can be a little more deliberate and pace himself. And that probably explains the close in the polls. But I am absolutely confident that come August and the convention, that the Democrats are going to be unified, because they feel very strongly about the need to bring about change in this country. And I think that once the Democrats are unified, our appeal, the appeal of our message among independents and among a lot of disaffected Republicans is going to be powerful. One of the good things, despite the fierceness of the contest between myself and Senator Clinton, is that there aren't a lot of ideological divisions in the Democratic Party. It's not like the Carter-Kennedy battle, where it really represented two clear, distinct wings of where the party needed to go. There's been a lot of convergence. That was true when there were 8 candidates. And that's been part of the problem with the debates, is finding things to disagree about. So I'm confident that we can pull together. I have tried to figure out how to show restraint and make sure that during this primary contest we're not damaging each other so badly that it's hard for us to run in November. Obviously, it's a little easier for me to say that since I lead in delegates and states and popular vote. Senator Clinton may not feel that she can afford to be as constrained. But I'm sure that Senator Clinton feels like she's doing me a great favor, because she's been deploying most of the arguments that the Republican Party will be using against me in November, and so it's toughening me up, and I'm getting run through the paces here.
Senator, we have time for one last question, which means we're going to avoid the bitter question. So you won't have to answer that one. You said you want to reduce the number of troops in Iraq. Can you imagine shifting a substantial number to Afghanistan, where the Taliban has been gaining strength and Osama bin Laden is still at large?
I think that was Osama bin Laden.
If I did that, I'm so sorry.
No. This is part of the exercise that I've been going through over the last 15 months, which is why it's pretty impressive I'm still standing here. I think it is. I have been very clear. We need to move our troops out of Iraq. Now, even if we set aside Afghanistan for a moment, I think it's the right thing to do for our national security. And this is going to be a debate that I'm looking forward to having with John McCain. During my questioning of General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker, what I asked them, and Chuck Hagel asked, and Joe Biden asked, and just about every member of the Foreign Relations Committee asked, and the Armed Services Committee asked, was what scenarios are going to create the kind of political accommodations that will allow us to move on. And that question was never answered. And the reason is because unless, I believe, the Iraqi leadership across the board feels some sense of urgency, they are going to continue to try to jockey for position, power, contracts, jobs, oil revenues, without regard to the consequences of them acting irresponsibly. And I am convinced that the only real way to apply measured pressure is by saying to them, we are leaving. We are going to leave in orderly and deliberate fashion. I've said 1 to 2 brigades per month. At that pace, we're looking at 16 months, assuming George Bush doesn't reduce our troop levels before the time that I was sworn in. We're talking about 2 years from now. That is not a precipitous withdrawal. You know, and when McCain and others suggest that it is, they're not being honest. At that point, we will have been in Iraq for 7 years. If we cannot get the Iraqi government to start functioning effectively in 7 years, we will not be able to do it in 14 years or 21 years or 28 years or 35 years. And that's why when John McCain says that he is willing to have a troop presence in Iraq for as long as 100 years, we should pay attention. Senator McCain's team and some editorialists said Obama's being unfair because John McCain didn't say that he wanted to fight a war for 100 years. He said that if troops weren't dying and we were not actively engaged in combat, there'd be nothing wrong with us having troops there for 100 years like we had in South Korea. I think he is absolutely wrong about that. A troop presence in Iraq means that we are effectively an occupying presence in Iraq. And the Iraqi government is not going to be challenged to change its behavior. And these various factions are not going to sort themselves out. Not to mention, we can't afford it. We're spending $400 million a day, $10 billion a month. Even with a scaled-down presence, the mountain of debt that we are piling up on behalf of our kids is inexcusable. It's inexcusable. There has never been a nation on earth that bankrupted itself and still maintained its military preeminence, who saw its economy decline but somehow was able to maintain its military power. Our national security depends on a strong economy. And if we are racking up trillions of dollars of debt over the course of decades in an occupation in Iraq, that's bad news. In addition, it will continue to fan the flames of anti-American sentiment and make it easier to recruit terrorists. Now, Afghanistan is a war that we have to win. So now factoring in Afghanistan, the only way that we're going to be able to put in the resources that we need in Afghanistan and make certain that our NATO allies see that we're serious and we can challenge them on the need to do better in Afghanistan and in the hills of Pakistan, where al-Qaeda still is if we get our troops out of Iraq. Otherwise, we don't have the troops, we don't have the money, and we don't have the legitimacy to focus on what Ambassador Crocker himself acknowledged is our main strategic threat, which is al-Qaeda, that is based in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And when I hear the administration use Osama bin Laden's language to say, well, they say that the Central Front is Iraq, of course they say it's Iraq, because as long as they have us there, tied up, that frees them to do what they need to do. If I were Osama bin Laden, I'd want us to consider Iraq the Central Front as well. It keeps the pressure off them. It's bad for our national security, it's bad for our treasury, and I intend to change it when I'm President of the United States. All right.
Thank you, Senator Obama. We appreciate your coming, and I'll look forward to seeing you next summer in Denver.
Look forward to it. Thank you very much, everybody.